Where have all the lesbians gone? This is the crux of the film. This is the movie you're watching. So we're going to talk about a movie, Triv and myself. We're going to talk about a movie that many of you probably haven't heard of, but you should have.
Oh, yeah.
What movie could I possibly be talking about? Jesus Christ, Vampire Hunter. That's right. This is a patron requested film from my good friend Silverlock over on Patreon. He's one of my top tier bad motherfucker Patreons. It's not an asylum movie in that way, that kind of bad.
It's the best kind of bad.
Kind of bad, that's for damn sure. But bad, you know, that's subjective, I think. While watching this movie, I cannot tell you how many times, ironically enough, but yet truthfully, I just kind of put my head down and went, Jesus Christ. This was something else. I don't even know where to start with this thing. It's very Grindhouse.
Oh, yeah.
We'll go with that.
This had a 100,000 Canadian dollar budget, which would be a right around, at least by modern standards, was about 76,000 US dollars.
I would like to say I do not see that. I don't see that 100,000 budget.
It was shot on 16 millimeter, and
it was shot on 16 millimeter.
Yes,
absolutely.
It's absolutely so. It definitely has that worn Grindhouse feel to it, just the way that it looks.
But was that? Did they mean for that to happen?
Probably
was
not.
Was that a purposeful thing, or was that just how low budget the movie was?
It does also have an 80 on Rotten Tomatoes based on 10 reviews.
All that IMDb has to say about it is kung fu action / comedy / horror / musical about the second coming. That's the IMDb page's synopsis of this film. Sure, yeah, I guess. I mean, really, the basic synopsis is vampire lesbians have infiltrated Ontario, I think it is. The church has a band of people together. It says, no more vampire lesbians. We have to do something about the vampire lesbian craze, the plight amongst the earth. They decide they need to bring out their secret weapon, which would be Jesus Christ, because he is the vampire hunter, apparently. He teams up with a kind of like secret agent vampire hunter who's not very good at her job.
Her name is Mary Magnum.
Jesus and her get together to fight the vampire lesbian plight. There have been some missing members of a parish at the church, and they're trying to figure out what happened to them, and they know the vampire lesbians got them, and they are going to wipe out the vampire lesbians, and they enlist a cavalcade of interesting characters to assist them in this fight, this good fight. That is the story.
One other thing to note, one of Jesus' sidekicks is a Mexican wrestler by the name of El Santo, which he was a real life actor / luchador in like the 50s and 60s, and he would just randomly show up in movies. And he was this no one knew what he looked like, and he was actually buried in his mask when he died.
And he randomly shows up here. So the movie starts with what can be best described as Rasputin. I really have no idea why. And the movie starts with this.
Are you prepared to take up residence? If you are, then enter.
That's where the movie starts, and it's like, what? And this guy, and he pops up throughout the movie just randomly, like at transitions, and he's just sitting in front of like all these pot leaves, it looks like, or these marijuana plants, talking scripture, and then the movie continues on. That's how this movie is random as fuck. Now you'll notice, if you heard that, the entire fucking movie is ADR. Everything in it is recorded after the fact. You can tell when Triv mentioned that 1970s Grindhouse feel. That's one of the things that does it. But you know, it's okay. It doesn't like pull you out or anything. It actually kind of adds to a bit of its charm, I thought.
Oh, I would agree. Yeah, no, 100%. And the sound effects that they use, because there is quite a lot of fighting, the sound effects that they consistently use
fighting.
for that.
There are lots of zany sound effects that we get. Everything is added in post, you could tell. There's an amazing opening song. Jesus Christ, Vampire Hunter. That was a choice they made, and they did that. We have a woman who gets attacked by a vampire. She bites her, kills her, steals her car. This is her, and what she has to say here is amazing.
Where have all our lesbians gone?
Where have all the lesbians gone? This is the crux of the film. This is the movie you're watching. So we have this vampire kill a nurse just randomly And she's out in the sun, too. They kind of explain that later on, I guess, somewhat.
Basically, the thought is that they remove the skin from corpses and then put it on those people that have been transitioned.
Lesbian corpses.
Lesbian skin.
They have to be lesbian corpses.
It's like they Buffalo Bill all this skin and somehow transition it to their vampires so they can walk in the daylight.
That's it.
Yep, that's it.
They don't really go into much more detail than that, but they steal the skin off of lesbians. This is not the last time you're going to hear about lesbians in this movie.
No.
They had it real hard on for lesbians, if you will. We meet a priest. We actually meet a couple of priests. They're talking about the lesbian scourge. This is the one of the priests, Father Alban. Father Alban. This is the point where you're like, what in the ever living fuck am I watching? After this, they come in and they have a talk about, hey, we gotta get, Jeezy Creasy in on this thing. Father Eustace says, okay, go get him. I've got you a ride. And they pull up in this bitchin' hog. Father Alban has a custom helmet just for himself. Here you go, Father Alban. Oh, yeah. He has a helmet with a cutout so that his mohawk doesn't get messed up.
His mohawk is for God. Yeah. So that mohawk better be on point.
They go to the beach. They find Jesus. Jesus is, this is apparently, it looks like an ocean, but it's one of the Great Lakes. And he's doing baptisms in the lake, like you do.
As you do.
And they come up, they say, Jesus, come help us. And he comes up and he offers them lemonade for some reason. I don't know what the relevance is there. And they're like, no thanks. They get to talking. They're like, lesbian vampires, man, we got to do something. We need your help. But before they can go any further from there, we get our first big fight scene of the movie. I hope this movie's not copywritten. Oh, the lesbian vampires are here.
Yep.
And they are not playing around. Yeah, here we go. They have amazing fight scene with amazing choreography. Father Alban and the moped driver, they are killed at the scene. Our main vampire, I can't remember her name, she gets away and Jesus takes off on the moped. He goes to meet Father Eustace. He tells him, we need you to get out there, Jesus, and do your Jesus thing. So Jesus decides, okay, before I can do this, I need a haircut. And not just a haircut, but a piercing. And he gets 2 ear piercings because, Jesus gonna Jesus.
You gotta fit into modern times. You gotta be undercover.
And you would think, well, that's weird. Why would Jesus do that? But before you can really give that much thought, the movie says, you know what? We got something more for you. Jesus out of the piercing place. And the movie goes into a 5-minute fucking musical dance number in the middle of the city for no fucking reason. After he does his dance number around the town, Jesus says, I need wood. Vampires. I'm a carpenter. I got this. So we see Jesus walking down the street, literally carrying ricks of wood, going somewhere. I don't know where the fuck he's going, but he's going somewhere to do something with this wood. Presumably to make steaks. Presumably to make steaks to kill vampires. And suddenly, out of nowhere, like everything else in this movie, a Jeep Wrangler pulls up. We got this Agent Smith looking guy. We got some cool music and Trinity with him. Here they go.
Hello, Jesus. You don't know us because we've never talked to you before. We are the Atheists.
We are the Atheists. Now, they... Jesus Christ. They get into a fight. And you're like, well, that's not too bad. Jesus can take him. He's already taken lesbian vampires. Surely he can take, Agent Smith and Trinity, atheists. But no, this Jeep Wrangler they're in is like the fucking TARDIS, and it's bigger on the inside because at least 30 or 40 people jump out of this thing. They just keep getting out of this thing. It is comical. And this fight goes on for a solid 8 minutes or more in the park. They're just rolling around and fighting each other. It's pretty epic. People like this guy. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. He's fucking Batman. I mean, here they go again. They do this shot, but with different people every time. We also get this guy out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah. He had a pool cue.
We get the one guy in Canada that they found that knew he was like a yellow belt in Taekwondo. He throws around like this bow staff and fights Jesus. When he finally fights Trinity and Agent Smith, how she is dispatched is probably one of the... I mean, I have not seen something this amazing since like a Marvel movie.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, gotta adjust. There's a negative or a these special effects. Oh, Jesus Christ. He finally defeats the atheists, though, because, you know, he's Jesus. What did you think of the film up to this point? We've just defeated the atheists.
I had no idea. I truly didn't. All I wanted to know was, when is Jesus gonna get an outfit to match that awesome hairdo? There are many things that the modern day church is faced with, but I never realized the absolute dire problem that lesbian vampires provided until we got to this point. How do you deal with that?
This movie's all about some transitions, okay? Transitional shots. They're like, how are we going to transition from this shot to the next? We get the first one, I believe it was right here after he has beaten the atheists. The atheists have been defeated, and we get quite possibly one of the best transitions in film to date. The atheists are defeated, and
he's got his wood. And to add to that, every single one of those transitions is slightly different.
Yes,
it's
a different cross and a different little swirly thing. And sometimes the cross turns, sometimes it doesn't. Zooms in sometimes, but it just will randomly show a cross and some type of spinning, and it'll go, Jesus! And then go to the next scene. Every time it happened, I laughed my ever-living fucking ass off. So after that amazing transition, he goes to his safe house, and there's a woman. This is where Mary Magnum. She's kind of like a secret agent vampire hunter for the church, is there. They get in a little bit of a fight like you do, because he doesn't know who this chick is, and she shows him, hey, I'm a card-holding member of the church. They're in this apartment. He walks in with his wood, and then the next scene, they're in a sauna. I don't know why. They're just in a fucking sauna.
Yep.
They have a talk about what, vampire lesbians are, and how they... I don't really know why this scene's in the movie. They're just in a fucking sauna. And we get another amazing transition.
You should have a lot to show.
Jesus! But they go to a retro clothing store where we have a very interesting guy that they talk to. He gets a shirt and he leaves and he gives the guy money, and the guy's like, this isn't enough. They start bartering about how much this shirt's gonna cost, and he says a certain amount, and the guy's like, now you in the hood, but you way down the block. He says all kinds of weird shit like that.
They also talk about the money that Jesus offers him. Is it not enough for a pimp stick? One other thing with that section, they have a full-on fashion show. I mean, it has to be at least a 5-minute segment of the movie where it's just fashion show.
So they get a lead to where the vampire lesbian's den, maybe, and they go to this place, and Jesus goes to jump down into the ductwork or something, and he looks to Mary Magnum and says, if I'm not back in 5 minutes, call the Pope. And then he gets stuck. They both go in, they're crawling in. They come across a guy doing some autopsy work to a lesbian, of course. Must be a lesbian. This is where we find out that they're taking the skin and grafting it to themselves. But it's the special effects work and the acting tour de force that we get from this gentleman. The special effects, I mean, if you're squeamish, you may want to look away, because this is some pretty brutal stuff.
In the only way available.
That skin graft.
Through the pseudoscience of religion.
And the professional tools. You can tell this is where the money went, Jake.
Oh, yeah.
Then we find out that the main vampire woman, and now we get introduced to a main vampire guy. They come in and say, we're running low on lesbians. We need more lesbians. Let's go get dinner.
That is a common problem.
It happens, man. It happens, So, I mean, you're beating up all the atheists and you're killing all the lesbians. What is Canada doing? So they go to the lesbian drop center.
Is it something where, like, you look in your cabinet and you're like, shit, we're running low on lesbians. Hey, while you're at the lesbian store, can you please pick up some more?
And by the way, here's a picture of it. This is the lesbian drop center, by the way. When we go inside the lesbian drop center, Jesus and Mary Magnum, I love that name. They go in and we get this. And this woman just screams for like 20 minutes. Look at all the dead lesbians. So yeah, she goes on for a while, and then Count Dracula and the female lesbian meet with Jesus. The male vampire comes up and says, you want to play a game? And Jesus is like, sure. And he goes, close your eyes. So Jesus closes his eyes. This is just random in the middle of all these dead bodies too. He just punches Jesus in the face. What did the 5 fingers say to the face? Slap! So they go up on the roof. They get in a big fight. You can imagine what type of fight choreography is going on here. Mary Magdalene gets taken out. She gets bitten. Jesus gets the shit kicked out of him. And then he's on a street later on, stumbling around like he's drunk. They do the Good Samaritan thing.
The priest walks by and kind of like crosses himself and moves on, and then the cop comes by and says, "Oh, my shift's over."
After those two tell him no, we get...
Oh, it's me. No. Oh. Oh, Jesus, honey, you're a mess.
Jesus, honey, you're a mess. And so this individual, transsexual transvestite from transsexual Transylvania, shows up and...
From transsexual Toronto.
Yeah, transsexual Toronto. There you go. Shows up, takes Jesus home, and, you know, mends his wounds. And says some really... just this whole scene is just what the fuck is going on. Jesus is down. He's not feeling very good. He's not having a... he's having a bad week.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, what am I gonna do? I lost Mary Magnum. The lesbian vampires keep getting a one-up on us every turn. What are we to do? So he goes to a diner where he's been a few times to eat. The young woman at the diner says, I'll be right back with your dessert. He says, I didn't order dessert. She goes away. She comes back. She brings something back. I don't know what it is. I think it's supposed to be ice cream or something.
Yeah.
And Jesus, he has an interaction.
Wait for it.
Is that you, bowl of cherries? You bowl of cherries. Jesus? I don't know. I've seen a lot of strange things over the years. You need help, Jesus.
It's so cool.
I think it's supposed to be his dad, God, talking to him. I don't know.
Yeah. It's the voice of God trying to
through
tell
ice
him where he
cream.
needs to go.
And grapes or something. So yeah, we get talking ice cream God, puts Jesus back on track. And this is not the only time that he is enlightened by higher power. His mom talks to him later as well. There's like a statue of Mary, and it starts blinking, and it goes, Jesus, hey, this is Mom. And he's like, hey, Mom, how you doing? It's like this big. And he's talking to it while he's making steaks to go kill the vampires. He's like, Mom, I'm busy. I got stuff to do. Well, honey, be careful.
Also, the Virgin Mary is pro-lesbians, just to be clear.
Yeah. She's like, oh, those poor lesbian. Yeah, it's good times. But yeah, so he talks to his mom and dad, and he's like, all right, Mom, love you, Mom. She's like, love you too. And he goes off to kill some vampires. God actually put him on the path to El Luchador Santos. He tells him, hey, go get this guy. So he goes to an airport, and somehow this Santos guy shows up, this luchador character. But this is random as fuck. He just shows up, and apparently they know each other. We got Santos here who's here to help with the lesbian vampire scourge. Everyone and their mama is constantly just grabbing this woman's ass.
Yep. She's his ass assistant.
So I don't know why, but why not? Even Jesus by the end of the movie grabs it. Makes it bigger too, I believe it is.
Well, you know, the power of God does
Compels
extend to
her.
such... Absolutely.
They go to this bar. They find out the whole bar is vampires, and they get in a fight. At this point, the movie is just all in, just doing crazy shit. It's going from place to place, doing just insane things. They go to the bar, they kill all these vampires.
I would like to add that
Sure.
they go to the shawarma place, and the whole scene is better than anything that they could pull off in the Avengers shawarma scene.
In the bar, they're having a fight, and Jesus just goes, in a vampire's face, and then we get right there, it just cuts, and we get a flashback to where he and the transsexual transvestite from transsexual Toronto went to a shawarma joint that had onions or garlic
Garlic
holy
sauce,
garlic,
yeah.
and he got like this garlic shawarma thing. I don't even know what the fuck shawarma is, but there was a lot of garlic in it. So when he breathed, it was breathing garlic on this vampire and burned its face off. We get a whole flashback just so they can go back to him going and
Absolutely.
like melting off a vampire's face.
There's
And-
also a really great kill with a plunger that is probably my favorite like vampire steak kill of all time.
Yeah, and that happens right after a guy on a toilet taking a shit stabs a vampire holding her in between his legs. There's a toothpick kill.
Yeah,
They take a
that
bunch
was
of
excellent.
drumsticks and throw them and impale a bunch of vampires. One guy takes a toothpick and throws it across the room and sticks a vampire in the heart. They get out of there. Then Santos, I think, is caught by the bad guy vampires, and Jesus goes to fight them at a junkyard. Mary Magdalene, by the way, does come back, but now she's a vampire. And
Yes,
of course,
a
she's
lesbian
a
vampire.
lesbian vampire. Yeah, she is a lesbian vampire. She's bad. Because if you're a vampire, you're a lesbian automatically. Even though if you're not a lesbian before, you are now. They get to the junkyard. They have their junkyard brawl where everybody gets in a fight. Jesus gets stabbed with a stake in the heart. Oh no! But what they weren't counting on is when they pull that stake out, Jesus does not die. They get the power of God. Jesus is light. shines through and burns them all the fuck up. I guess that's what happened. I don't know. A flashlight came.
The
to
light
his
of
shirt.
God. It's like what happened with the ark.
The Ark of the
light.
Covenant is in Jesus' chest. So a flashlight beam comes out, kills all the vampires. Now the people that we want to live, such as Mary Magnum and I think one other, they are saved. Since the main vampires are dead, they're back. And the main vampire girl, she's back. She's no longer a bad vampire or a lesbian vampire. She's just a lesbian now. And Mary Magnum is a lesbian as well now. She kept that. She lost her vampirism, but she kept the lesbianism, and they got together. Yay. And Santos gets together with his... Oh, and the lesbian vampire who he gets together with, they're like, weren't you a lesbian? She's like, no, I'm bi. And Santos is like, ay, Colombia! yeah. You know, and so they live happily ever after. Jesus, he's left with no one, but he doesn't need anyone. He has the love of everyone. The assistant to El Santos is left with Jesus, and as he caresses her butt, as we go out and the movie ends. So that's Jesus Christ, a vampire hunter. I know this was kind of all over the place and random, but that's this fucking movie. I mean, that is just indicative of what this movie is. What are your thoughts of this movie now that you've experienced this experience?
I absolutely it was so stupid, and I will say the lack of like a solid arc through the middle. I mean, even the worst good bad movies have like some kind of an arc. The fact that this lacked that was kind of against it, but everything else, I love random, and this movie is just, so good. Just so weird and so random, and it had all those things, but it wasn't really offensive. For all of the talk of, you know, kind of it being blasphemous, and to some extent it is, but honest to God, it is so fun. And just, if you need a good, like, weird movie night for friends that can appreciate weird shit, I mean, this movie is just top tier. My life is better because of this movie, and I thank you, Jake, and I thank Silverlock because you kick ass, and it was amazing. I love it. I
had a really good time with this movie. Now I will say this is not a movie you watch alone. I actually attempted that. I watched the first when I was going to originally review this about a month ago. I watched about 15 minutes of it, and I thought it was funny, but this is a movie you need to experience with other people, at least one other person. Watch this with. This is a movie that you need some alcohol, and you need a group of people, and you will have a great time with it. Do not sit down to watch this and think this is the next movie you're going to watch for the night and have a good... No, it's not that. This is a crowd watching experience. You watch it that way and you'll laugh your ever-living ass off throughout it. You got to have a sense of humor. The movie is not good in your traditional way, sense, but it's not trying to be. They don't take it serious, so you can't either. So you could look at this movie and tear it apart by the way it looks, the sound, everything, the technical side of it, but that's not what it's about. It's meant to be that way. That's probably all they could do. They understood that and they rolled with it. They played to what they had to work with. It was the little moments in this movie I really appreciated. Like the whole Jesus thing and all that, where it was Jesus, that was great, man. Random ass angles, and how like they had this Jeep Wrangler that 60 people jumped out of. And the music that just doesn't fit, the ADR, all the little things like that. The story it's barely there. It's just a collection of events and things that happen. Yeah. But it's all those moments that are just funny as hell. They should cut this movie up and put it on YouTube, and I think that the individual scenes will do great.
There's so many movies that are like this, like Birdemic and things like that. And Birdemic, the original one, hits it, you know, The Room hits it. This hits it on a different level than those, I think, because it's self-aware. It's 100% random. Like, there's nothing that connects it. It is just, okay, we got Jesus, we got Kung Fu, we got, lesbian vampires, we got Santos. Okay, great, let's do it. How do you describe this? There's really no way to describe this movie.
They kill somebody with a fucking toothpick. I mean, that's all you need to know. It is a so bad it's good movie. But like you had mentioned about these other films like The Room and whatnot, those movies didn't. They thought they were good. I mean, no matter what Tommy Wiseau says, he thought he was making a good movie. This, they knew what they were making. It is very self-aware. It is absolutely, they are in on the joke with you. So go into it knowing that, and just with a group of people and maybe a little bit of substance of some sorts, and you're going to have a blast with this thing. It is ridiculously over the top, and just... it gives no fucks. It's just a bunch of shit strung together with a very loose plot to tie things together. Thanks, Silverlock, for turning me onto this one. This was a good time. If anyone out there would like me and a guest to check out a movie of your picking, you can do so by heading over to Patreon And check out my Patreon, which is in the description below, and join my top tier bad motherfucker like Silverlock and a couple of others have. And you can request of me once a month to review any movie of your liking. But yeah, Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, let us know what you thought in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it was kind of random and all over the place. All I can really say to that is...
Oh, Jesus!